The hotel receipt fell out of Clara's purse like a confession written in black ink on white paper. Room 237, Riverside Inn, charged to Ryan Blake's company card. My wife had been working late that night, or so she'd told me while I heated up leftover Chinese food and watched Netflix alone. I'm Ethan Cole, 30 years old, software engineer, and apparently the biggest fool in Portland, Maine. For 3 years, I'd been the understanding husband, the guy who never complained when Clara came home at midnight smelling like expensive cologne that wasn't mine, the idiot who believed her stories about client dinners and team-building exercises. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. Standing in our kitchen at 7 in the morning, holding that receipt while Clara showered upstairs, I felt something crack inside my chest. Not my heart, that had been slowly dying for months. This was something colder, sharper, something that whispered, "Time to stop being the nice guy." Clara bounced downstairs 15 minutes later, all smiles and designer perfume, her PR manager persona already locked in place. She kissed my cheek like we were still newlyweds instead of strangers sharing a mortgage. "Morning, honey. Sorry I was so late yesterday. That Blake Industries presentation ran forever." She grabbed her coffee mug, the one I'd bought her for our second anniversary that said "World's Best Wife" in fading letters. I slipped the receipt into my pocket. "How's Ryan doing these days?" Her hand froze halfway to her lips. Just for a second, but I caught it. 3 years of marriage teaches you to read the micro-expressions, the tiny tells that reveal everything. "Ryan? Oh, he's fine. Same old Ryan, you know, always pushing for bigger campaigns." She laughed, but it sounded like glass breaking. "Why do you ask?" Just curious. You mention him a lot lately." Clara's phone buzzed. She grabbed it faster than a gunfighter drawing iron, her eyes scanning the message with an intensity she never showed my texts. A smile played at the corners of her mouth, the kind of smile I used to think was reserved for me. "Work emergency. I need to get going." She kissed my cheek again, but this time it felt like a lie pressed against my skin. "Don't wait up tonight. Big client dinner." After she left, I sat in the silence of our kitchen and pulled up her location on Find My iPhone. We'd shared locations years ago for safety, back when we actually cared about each other's well-being. The little blue dot showed Clara's phone at Riverside Inn. I called in sick to work and drove downtown. The Riverside Inn sat on the waterfront like a glass and steel monument to expensive secrets. I parked across the street and waited. At 10:47 a.m., Clara emerged from the lobby, but she wasn't alone. Ryan Blake walked beside her, his hand resting on the small of her back with the casual intimacy of ownership. Ryan Blake, 34, sales executive, the kind of guy who wore $1,000 suits and treated everyone else like they were there for his entertainment. I'd met him at Clara's office parties. He had the handshake of a politician and the morals of a used car salesman. He was also married to a sweet woman named Jessica who baked cookies for their neighbors and volunteered at the animal shelter. I watched them say goodbye, not a handshake or professional nod, but a kiss that lasted long enough to make my hands clench around the steering wheel. Clara touched his face like she was memorizing it. Ryan whispered something that made her laugh. A real laugh, the kind I hadn't heard from her in months. That's when I knew this wasn't just an affair. This was love, or at least what Clara thought was love. She was in love with Ryan Blake, and I was just the inconvenient husband standing between them and their happy ending. I drove home and did something I'd never done before. I hacked Clara's laptop. Don't get me wrong, I'm not some cyber criminal mastermind. I'm a software engineer who knows that most people use the same password for everything, and Clara's password had been our wedding date for as long as I'd known her. Within 20 minutes, I was reading her messages. The conversations went back 6 months. 6 months of, "I can't wait to see you," and "Last night was incredible," and "When are you going to tell Jessica?" Ryan had been promising to leave his wife soon, while Clara had been planning our divorce in explicit detail. She'd already talked to a lawyer, already calculated how much she'd get from our house, our savings, our shared life. But the message that made me freeze was from 3 days ago. Clara, "Ethan's so clueless. I almost feel sorry for him." Ryan, "Don't. Nice guys finish last for a reason. Some people are just born to be walked on." Clara, 3 more months and I'll be free. Then we can stop sneaking around." Ryan, "Can't wait to have you all to myself. No more pretending to care about software engineering and Netflix nights." I closed the laptop and sat in the growing darkness of our living room. 3 more months. Clara was going to string me along for 3 more months, letting me believe we still had a marriage while she planned her exit strategy. But here's the thing about nice guys that people like Clara and Ryan never understand. We're not nice because we're weak. We're nice because we choose to be. And when we stop choosing niceness, when we decide to play by different rules, we can be absolutely ruthless. I picked up my phone and scrolled through my contacts until I found Mia Turner, Clara's best friend and business partner. Mia planned events for the city's elite and knew everyone's secrets. More importantly, she'd never liked Clara's recent behavior. I'd seen the way she looked at Clara during their girls' nights out, like she was watching a friend turn into a stranger. Me. Hey Mia, can we talk? It's about Clara. Her response came back in 30 seconds. Mia. Finally. I wondered when you'd figure it out. Coffee tomorrow? I have things to tell you. I smiled in the darkness. Clara thought she was so clever, so careful. But she'd forgotten that betrayal has a way of creating allies in unexpected places. Tomorrow, I'd start building my revenge. Tonight, I'd let Clara come home and lie to my face one more time. Because the nice guy was about to die, and what was being born in his place was going to be Clara's worst nightmare. Mia Turner sat across from me at Grind Coffee, her manicured fingers wrapped around a ceramic mug that probably cost more than my monthly Netflix subscription. At 28, she had the sharp intelligence of someone who'd built a successful event planning business from scratch, and the cynical edge of someone who'd seen too many marriages crumble at the parties she organized. So, she said, her green eyes studying my face like she was reading a contract, you finally know about Ryan. I'd spent the night rehearsing this conversation, but Mia's directness caught me off guard. How long have you known? Since the beginning. Clara tells me everything. Mia's laugh was bitter. Or she used to, back when she thought adultery was something to brag about. And you didn't think I deserved to know? Mia leaned back in her chair, and for a moment, I saw something that looked like regret flicker across her features. I told her to end it with you cleanly or end it with him completely. She chose door number 3, lie to everyone and see what happens. She pulled out her phone and scrolled through her messages. Want to know what your wife really thinks of you? Because I've got screenshots. For the next 20 minutes, Mia showed me a side of Clara I'd never seen. The Clara who mocked my boring job and predictable personality to her friends. The Clara who called me safe and convenient while describing Ryan as exciting and dangerous. The Clara who'd been planning to take half of everything I'd worked for while painting herself as the victim of a loveless marriage. She's been telling people you're emotionally distant, Mia said, showing me another message thread. Says you never listen to her, never make an effort. Meanwhile, she's spending your anniversary weekend with Ryan at that bed and breakfast in Bar Harbor. I remembered that weekend. Clara had said she needed space to think. Aaron had gone to visit her sister in Boston. I'd spent 2 days alone, wondering what I'd done wrong, trying to figure out how to save our marriage. While I was eating takeout and watching our wedding video, she was making new memories with another man. Why are you telling me this? I asked. Mia's expression hardened. Because Clara's not the only one who's been lied to. Ryan's been telling Jessica that Clara is just a colleague. He's been promising Clara he'll leave Jessica while telling his wife that Clara means nothing to him, and Clara's been so blinded by what she thinks is love that she can't see she's being played. She leaned forward, her voice dropping to a whisper. But here's what neither of them knows. Jessica Blake hired me to plan their 10th anniversary party next month. She's been planning this surprise celebration for 6 months, talking about renewing their vows, starting a family. She loves that bastard with everything she has. The pieces started clicking together in my mind. Ryan's not leaving his wife. Never was. Men like Ryan don't leave comfortable situations for complicated ones. Clara's the side dish, not the main course. But she's too infatuated to see it. Mia pulled up another message, this one from just yesterday. Clara. Ryan says he needs more time to tell Jessica. Maybe after her birthday next month. Mia. Clara, he's been saying that for months. Clara, you don't understand what we have. This is real love, not some convenient arrangement like what I have with Ethan. I felt that cold anger from yesterday morning spreading through my chest again. She's going to destroy Jessica's life for a man who's never going to choose her. Unless someone stops her first. Mia's smile was sharp as broken glass. I've been Clara's friend for 8 years, Ethan. I've watched her make mistakes before, but this is different. This is going to hurt innocent people, and I can't stand by and watch it happen. What are you suggesting? I'm suggesting that maybe it's time Clara and Ryan face some consequences for their choices. Real consequences, not just guilty consciences and whispered apologies. I studied Mia's face, looking for the trap, the angle I was missing. What's in this for you? Satisfaction, she said simply. I'm tired of watching selfish people hurt good people and get away with it. Clara thinks she's so smart, so careful. Ryan thinks he's untouchable. They both think the people they're lying to are too stupid or too weak to fight back. She finished her coffee and stood up. Jessica Blake doesn't deserve to have her marriage destroyed by people who think love is just an excuse for betrayal, and you don't deserve to be treated like a fool in your own home. So what do you want to do? Mia's smile turned predatory. I want to give them exactly what they deserve, but I can't do it alone. Are you interested in evening the score, Ethan? I thought about Clara coming home last night, kissing my cheek and asking about my day while the scent of Ryan's cologne still clung to her hair. I thought about the messages calling me clueless and boring. I thought about 3 more months of lies while she planned her escape. I'm interested, I said. What did you have in mind? Mia sat back down and pulled out a notebook. Ryan's hosting a company party next Friday night. Big client event at the Riverside Inn. Ironic, right? Clara will be there as his colleague, playing the professional while they sneak glances and stolen touches. And Jessica Blake will be there too. Ryan finally agreed to let her come after months of making excuses. She's so excited. She bought a new dress, made hair appointments. She thinks it's a sign that Ryan's finally ready to include her in his work life. I could see where this was going. You want to expose them publicly. I want to give them a choice, Mia corrected. End this affair cleanly and confess to their spouses, or have the choice made for them in front of everyone who matters to their careers and reputations. It was elegant in its simplicity. No violence, no illegal activity, just the truth delivered at the worst possible moment for the people who'd been lying. What do you need from me? I asked. Mia smiled, and for the first time since this conversation started, it looked genuine. I need you to be yourself, Ethan, the loyal husband who deserves better. Can you do that? I thought about Clara's laugh when Ryan whispered in her ear. I thought about the way she'd touched his face like he was precious. I thought about 3 more months of being treated like a fool. I can do that, I said, but I want more than just a public scene. I want them to understand what it feels like to lose everything they think they're entitled to. Mia's eyes lit up with something that might have been respect. Now you're talking. Let me tell you about Ryan's little problem with company expense accounts and Clara's habit of sharing confidential client information with unauthorized personnel. For the next hour, we planned the downfall of 2 people who thought they were too smart to face consequences. By the time we left the coffee shop, Clara and Ryan's perfect little affair was living on borrowed time. The nice guy was officially gone. What was taking his place was going to be much more dangerous. Derek Martinez had been my roommate in college and my best friend ever since. After graduation, he joined the Portland Police Department, worked his way up to detective, then left 5 years later to start his own private security firm. Now he installed alarm systems for wealthy clients and occasionally helped old friends with problems that required a more creative approach to justice. So let me get this straight, Derek said, leaning against his workbench in the garage that served as his office. Your wife's been cheating on you for 6 months, planning to divorce you and take half your assets, and calling you clueless behind your back. That's the summary, yeah. And now you want to destroy her life and her boyfriend's career without technically breaking any laws. I want them to face consequences for their choices, I corrected. There's a difference. Derek grinned. At 31, he still had the build of the college linebacker he'd been, but 15 years of friendship had taught me that his real weapon was his mind. Derek thought 3 moves ahead in every situation, which was why his security business was booming and why I'd called him when I needed help planning something complicated. I like it, he said. What do you need? I pulled out my laptop and showed him the photos I'd taken outside the Riverside Inn, the screenshots of Clara's messages that Mia had shared, and the timeline we'd constructed of the affair. I need evidence that will hold up if this gets ugly, and I need a way to make sure Ryan Blake faces professional consequences, not just personal ones. Derek studied the information with the focused intensity he'd once brought to analyzing game film. Ryan's using company resources for personal affairs, hotel rooms charged to business accounts, client dinners that were actually dates with your wife. That's grounds for termination and possibly criminal charges. Can you prove it? I can prove he's been at the Riverside Inn on days when his calendar shows him in client meetings across town. I can prove Clara's been with him during times when she was supposed to be working on other accounts. Derek's smile turned sharp. I can also prove that Ryan's been sharing confidential client information with Clara, and she's been sharing it with competitors. That was news to me. What? Mia gave me access to Clara's work emails. Your wife's been trading insider information about Blake Industries' campaigns to boost her own client roster. She's been using Ryan's pillow talk to steal business from his company. The scope of Clara's betrayal kept expanding. It wasn't just adultery anymore. It was corporate espionage, fraud, and a level of calculation that made my stomach turn. The woman I'd married would never have done something like this. But maybe I'd never really known who Clara was underneath the performance. "How do we use this?" I asked. Derek pulled up a file on his computer. "Ryan's company has a strict ethics policy, conflicts of interest, misuse of company resources, sharing confidential information. Any one of these violations is grounds for immediate termination. All three together, he'll be lucky if they don't prosecute. And Clara? Her PR firm has similar policies. Plus, if her clients find out she's been sharing their strategies with competitors, she'll be facing lawsuits that could bankrupt her." It was perfect. Too perfect. "What's the catch?" "The catch is that we need them to confess or get caught red-handed. Circumstantial evidence might be enough to plant doubt, but if you want to destroy them completely, we need something undeniable." I thought about the company party on Friday night. Mia says they'll both be at the Riverside Inn party. Ryan will be playing the professional host while Clara pretends to be just another colleague. Meanwhile, Ryan's wife will be there watching her husband work the room. Sounds like the perfect opportunity for them to make a mistake. Derek opened another file, this one full of photos and floor plans. "I did security consulting for the Riverside Inn last year. I know the layout, the camera positions, the blind spots. If we're smart about this, we can create a situation where Clara and Ryan have to choose between maintaining their cover and protecting each other." "What kind of situation?" Derek's grin was predatory. "The kind where their lies start colliding with each other. See, the thing about affairs is that they require constant deception. Everyone involved has to keep their stories straight. Remember who knows what, maintain multiple versions of the truth. But when you're under pressure, when things start falling apart, people make mistakes." He pulled up a timeline on his computer. Friday night, Ryan will be trying to impress his clients, keep his wife happy, and manage his relationship with Clara all at the same time. Clara will be trying to maintain her professional reputation, avoid suspicion, and deal with seeing Ryan with his wife. Add some unexpected pressure to that situation, and something's going to crack. What kind of pressure? The kind that comes from realizing someone knows all your secrets and isn't afraid to use them. Derek showed me his plan, and it was beautiful in its simplicity. No illegal surveillance, no hacking, no breaking and entering, just the strategic application of truth at precisely the wrong moment for the people who'd been lying. "I love it," I said. "But what about afterwards? Once their affair is exposed, once they lose their jobs, what's to stop them from just running away together? Clara gets what she wanted, freedom from our marriage, and Ryan gets a convenient excuse to leave his wife." Derek's expression turned serious. "That's where the real consequences come in, Ethan. See, Mia's been doing some digging into Ryan's finances. Turns out he's been living beyond his means for years. The expensive suits, the fancy car, the upscale apartment, it's all leveraged against his salary and his wife's trust fund." "Trust fund?" "Jessica Blake inherited $2 million from her grandmother 5 years ago. Ryan's been using that money to fund his lifestyle while his own salary pays for his affair with Clara. Hotel rooms, expensive dinners, gifts, it's all coming out of his wife's inheritance." The implications hit me like a physical blow. He's been stealing from Jessica to pay for his betrayal of Jessica. Exactly. And when Jessica finds out, and she will find out, Ryan's going to face more than just divorce proceedings. He's going to face fraud charges, asset seizure, and complete financial ruin. "What about Clara?" Derek's smile turned cold. "Clara's been accepting gifts purchased with stolen money. Legally, that makes her an accessory. Plus, when her corporate espionage comes to light, she'll be facing lawsuits from multiple clients. By the time the dust settles, she'll be broke, unemployed, and potentially facing criminal charges." It was more than I'd hoped for. Complete destruction of the life Clara thought she was building with Ryan, delivered through the natural consequences of their own choices. No violence, no illegal activity on our part, just the truth, strategically revealed to cause maximum damage. "When do we start?" I asked. Derek closed his laptop and stood up. "We already have. Mia's been collecting evidence for weeks. I've been documenting their activities and building the case against them. All that's left is the execution." He handed me a small device that looked like a car key fob. "GPS tracker. Completely legal as long as you put it on your own wife's car. We'll know everywhere she goes and everyone she meets with." "And Friday night?" "Friday night, we give Clara and Ryan exactly what they deserve. Justice served cold, with a side of public humiliation." I pocketed the GPS tracker and shook Derek's hand. "Thank you." "Don't thank me yet," Derek said. "Thank me when it's over and you're free of both of them." As I drove home, I thought about Clara's reaction when her carefully constructed lies started collapsing. I thought about Ryan's face when he realized his theft had been discovered. I thought about Jessica Blake, who deserved to know the truth about the man she'd trusted with her heart and her inheritance. The nice guy would have tried to save everyone, would have looked for a solution that minimized the damage to all parties. But the nice guy was gone, and what had taken his place understood that some people only learned through consequences. Clara and Ryan were about to get the education of their lives. The Riverside Inn's ballroom glittered with the kind of understated elegance that screamed expensive taste. Crystal chandeliers cast warm light over tables draped in white linen, while floor-to-ceiling windows offered a view of Portland's harbor that probably cost extra. The city's business elite mingled with drinks in hand, their conversations a carefully orchestrated symphony of networking and social positioning. I stood near the bar, nursing a whiskey and watching Clara work the room like the professional she was. She wore a black cocktail dress that I'd never seen before, probably purchased for occasions like this, when she needed to look sophisticated while secretly meeting her lover in public. Her laugh carried across the room as she charmed potential clients, but I could see the tension in her shoulders, the way her eyes kept scanning the crowd. She was looking for Ryan. "You clean up nice for a software engineer." I turned to find Mia beside me, resplendent in a silver dress that probably cost more than my monthly mortgage payment. Her event planner's eye had no doubt cataloged every detail of the evening, from the flower arrangements to the guest list demographics. "You outdid yourself," I said, gesturing to the room. "This looks like something from a magazine." Blake Industries spared no expense. They wanted to impress their biggest clients, show them that the company's growth is stable and sustainable. Mia's smile was sharp. Too bad their sales director is about to become a liability. Across the room, Ryan Blake held court near the windows, his expensive suit and practiced charm drawing a circle of admirers. He had the kind of confidence that came from never facing real consequences, the easy smile of someone who'd always been able to talk his way out of trouble. His wife Jessica stood beside him, radiant in a blue dress that complemented her blonde hair, her hand resting on his arm with trusting affection. "She really loves him," I said, watching Jessica laugh at something Ryan whispered in her ear. "And she does, which is what makes this so much worse." Mia's voice carried a note of genuine sadness. "Jessica Blake is one of the kindest people I've ever met. She volunteers at 3 different charities. She remembers everyone's birthday. She bakes cookies for her neighbors just because she likes making people happy. She deserves so much better than this." I spotted Clara making her approach to Ryan's group, her professional smile perfectly calibrated for public consumption. She joined the conversation with the smooth confidence of someone who belonged, but I caught the moment when her fingers brushed against Ryan's hand as she reached for her wine glass, a touch so brief and casual that anyone watching would dismiss it as accidental. But I knew better, and so did Mia. "They think they're so clever," Mia murmured. "Look at them, playing their little game right in front of his wife." Clara was telling some story that had the group laughing, but her eyes were locked on Ryan's face with an intensity that had nothing to do with business networking. Ryan's attention was focused on Clara with the kind of magnetic pull that comes from shared secrets and stolen moments. Jessica noticed none of it. She was too busy being proud of her husband, too trusting to see the betrayal happening inches away from her. "It's time," Mia said quietly. She moved away from the bar with the purposeful stride of someone who knew exactly what she was doing. I watched her join Clara's conversation circle, her arrival shifting the group's dynamic in subtle but important ways. "Clara," Mia said, her voice carrying just enough volume to be heard by nearby tables. "I was just telling Mrs. Henderson about that amazing hotel you recommended. The Riverside Inn. She's planning her anniversary celebration and wanted to know about their suite accommodations." Clara's wineglass froze halfway to her lips. The color drained from her face as she realized what Mia had just done, connected her to the hotel where she'd been meeting Ryan in front of his wife and half the city's business community. I don't recall recommending," Clara started, but Mia cut her off smoothly. "Oh, you must remember. You were raving about their service, how romantic the atmosphere was. You said it was perfect for couples who wanted privacy and discretion." Ryan's face had gone pale, but he was trapped by the social dynamics of the conversation. He couldn't defend Clara without drawing more attention, couldn't change the subject without seeming rude to potential clients. Jessica, sweet and trusting Jessica, smiled brightly. "How wonderful that you've had such good experiences here, Clara. Ryan and I should book a weekend sometime. We haven't had a proper getaway in months." The silence that followed lasted maybe 3 seconds, but it felt like an eternity. Clara's mouth opened and closed like she was drowning in air. Ryan's hand tightened around his drink until his knuckles went white, and then Derek appeared at my elbow, right on schedule. "Excuse me, Mr. Blake?" Derek's voice carried the authoritative tone of his police training. "I'm Derek Martinez with Secure Solutions. Your assistant said I could find you here. We need to discuss some irregularities in your company's expense account records." The group's attention shifted to Derek, and I saw Ryan's face cycle through confusion, recognition, and growing panic. Derek had the build and bearing of law enforcement, and his words carried implications that made several people step back instinctively. "I'm sorry, this is hardly the appropriate venue for business discussions," Ryan said, trying to regain control of the situation. "I'm afraid it can't wait," Derek replied calmly. "We've identified several unauthorized charges to company accounts, including multiple hotel stays that don't correspond to any business activities in your calendar." Jessica's smile faltered. "Hotel stays? Ryan, what is he talking about?" Clara made a small sound that might have been a whimper. She was staring at Derek like he was a predator, and she was trapped prey, which wasn't far from the truth. "There's obviously been some mistake," Ryan said, but his voice lacked conviction. "I'll be happy to review any discrepancies with the accounting department on Monday. The discrepancies include charges to this hotel, Mr. Blake, the Riverside Inn, multiple visits over the past 6 months, often during business hours when you were scheduled to be in client meetings elsewhere. The crowd around them was growing larger, drawn by the drama unfolding in their midst. I could see phones being discreetly raised, social media posts being crafted in real time. By tomorrow morning, this conversation would be the talk of Portland's business community." Jessica's face was a mask of growing confusion and hurt. "Ryan, what's going on? Why would you be at hotels during business meetings?" Clara chose that moment to try to escape. She turned away from the group, probably hoping to slip away unnoticed, but Mia was ready for her. "Clara, don't leave," Mia said loudly. "I think you should hear this too, since your car was captured on the hotel's security cameras during several of those unauthorized visits." Clara stopped like she'd hit an invisible wall. Around the room, conversations were dying as more people tuned in to the unfolding drama. This was better than any entertainment the evening could have provided. Ryan made one last desperate attempt to control the narrative. "Look, I don't know what kind of scam you're trying to pull, but I'm not going to stand here and be accused of using company funds to pay for hotel rooms where you've been meeting with Clara Martin." Derek's voice cut through Ryan's bluster like a blade. "Because that's exactly what the evidence shows." Jessica's wineglass slipped from her fingers and shattered on the marble floor. The sound seemed to echo in the sudden silence that had fallen over the ballroom. "No," Jessica whispered, looking between her husband and Clara with dawning horror. "No, that's not... Ryan, tell them that's not true." Ryan's mouth opened, but no words came out. He was staring at Clara like she might somehow save him, but Clara was staring at the floor like she wanted it to swallow her whole. 6 months, Derek continued relentlessly. 47 separate hotel visits, a charge to Blake Industries' corporate account. Always during business hours, always when Mr. Blake was supposed to be in client meetings, and always with Ms. Martin's vehicle present in the hotel parking garage. Jessica's breathing was becoming rapid and shallow. Several people moved to help her, but she waved them away, her eyes never leaving her husband's face. "Ryan," she said, her voice breaking on his name. "Please tell me this isn't happening. Please tell me that we didn't." But Ryan's silence was answer enough. His shoulders sagged as the weight of his exposed lies finally crushed his ability to maintain the pretense. Clara finally looked up, tears streaming down her face, and made the worst possible choice she could have made in that moment. "Jessica, I'm so sorry," she said. "We never meant for it to happen this way. We tried to fight it, but we fell in love." The ballroom erupted in gasps and whispered conversations. Jessica's face went through a series of expressions: disbelief, pain, rage, and finally a kind of cold fury I wouldn't have thought the sweet woman capable of. "Love?" Jessica's voice was barely above a whisper, but it carried clearly in the hushed room. "You think this is love?" She turned to her husband, and when she spoke again, her voice was steady as steel. "You used my grandmother's money to pay for your affair. You used my inheritance to betray me." Ryan finally found his voice. "Jessica, please let me explain." "Explain what?" Jessica's composure cracked, revealing the devastation underneath. "Explain how you've been stealing from me to sleep with her. Explain how you've been lying to my face for months while planning to leave me." She looked around the room at the faces staring back at her. Colleagues, friends, people who would remember this moment for years to come. "I need to go," she said quietly. Jessica Blake walked out of the ballroom with her head held high, leaving behind a husband whose career was over, a marriage that was destroyed, and a room full of witnesses who would never forget what they'd seen. Clara collapsed into a nearby chair, sobbing. Ryan stood frozen in the center of the wreckage, finally understanding that his charmed life had just come to an end. And I stood at the bar, watching the woman who had called me clueless and boring face the consequences of underestimating the people she'd betrayed. The nice guy was gone, but what had taken his place was very much alive, and it was just getting started. The aftermath of the party moved faster than I'd anticipated. By Saturday morning, Ryan Blake's termination from Blake Industries was trending on local business social media. By Sunday, Clara's PR firm had suspended her pending an investigation into client confidentiality breaches. By Monday, Jessica Blake had filed for divorce and frozen all joint accounts, leaving Ryan with nothing but his expensive suits and his suddenly worthless charm. I watched it all unfold from the comfort of my home office, monitoring news feeds and social media with the detached fascination of someone watching a carefully orchestrated demolition. Derek had been right. When you apply pressure to a structure built on lies, the collapse is both inevitable and spectacular. Clara hadn't come home Friday night, or Saturday night, or Sunday night. She finally walked through our front door Monday evening, looking like she'd aged 5 years in 4 days. Her designer clothes were wrinkled, her makeup was gone, and her eyes held the hollow look of someone who'd finally understood the true cost of their choices. "Ethan," she said, standing in our living room like a stranger in her own home. "Aku, we need to talk." I looked up from my laptop, where I'd been reading the latest article about Blake Industries' ethics scandal and the corporate espionage investigation that was destroying what remained of Clara's reputation. "Do we?" I asked. "I thought you'd said everything you needed to say in your messages with Ryan. What was it you called me? Clueless, boring, emotionally distant?" Clara's face crumpled. "You know about the messages." "I know about everything, Clara. The hotel receipts, the stolen client information, the divorce lawyer you consulted 3 months ago. I know about Ryan's promises to leave Jessica and your plans to take half of everything I've worked for." I closed the laptop and gave her my full attention. "I know that you've been living a double life for 6 months while treating me like an idiot in my own home." She sank into the chair across from me, and for a moment I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. "It wasn't supposed to happen like this," she whispered. "Ryan and I, we tried to fight it, but we fell in love. Real love, not the comfortable arrangement we had." "Comfortable arrangement," I repeated her words slowly, tasting the dismissal in them. "Is that what our marriage was to you? An arrangement?" "You know it was, Ethan. We both settled. We were safe choices for each other, not passionate love stories. With Ryan, I felt alive for the first time in years." I studied her face, looking for any trace of the woman I'd married. "And that justified lying to me for 6 months? Stealing from your clients? Helping Ryan embezzle money from his wife's inheritance?" Clara's head snapped up. "We weren't stealing from Jessica. Ryan was using their joint accounts for legitimate expenses." "Hotel rooms for your affair aren't legitimate expenses, Clara. And sharing confidential client information with competitors isn't market research. You committed corporate espionage to impress your boyfriend." The color drained from her face. "How do you know about the client information?" "I know about everything," I repeated. "I know that Morrison and Associates lost the Hartwell campaign because you leaked their strategy to Ryan's company. I know that you've been trading insider information for months to boost your own client roster. I know that when your former clients find out, you'll be facing lawsuits that will bankrupt you." Clara was shaking now, the full scope of her exposure finally hitting her. "You can't prove any of that." I opened my laptop and turned the screen toward her. Email threads, message logs, financial records, 6 months of evidence laid out in chronological order. "Derek Martinez is very thorough," I said. "He's also very good at his job. Every hotel visit, every stolen client list, every lie you told to cover your tracks, it's all documented." Clara stared at the screen, which, in a professional sense, she was. "What do you want?" she asked finally. "I want you to understand what it feels like to lose everything you thought you were entitled to." I closed the laptop again. "You thought you were so clever, Clara. You thought you could manipulate everyone around you and walk away with exactly what you wanted. You thought I was too weak to fight back, and Jessica was too trusting to catch on." "Ethan, please." "You called me clueless," I continued. "Said I was boring and predictable. Said nice guys finish last for a reason. Well, congratulations, Clara. You're about to find out what happens when the nice guy stops being nice." Her phone buzzed with an incoming call. Ryan's name appeared on the screen, and Clara looked at it like it was a snake. "Aren't you going to answer?" I asked. "Your great love is calling." Clara declined the call, but it immediately started ringing again and again. "He's been calling all day," she said quietly. "Ever since Jessica's lawyers served him with divorce papers and asset seizure orders. He's lost everything, Ethan. His job, his wife, his house, his reputation. He has nothing left. And now he wants you to save him?" The phone rang again. This time Clara answered it, putting it on speaker without thinking. "Clara, thank God!" Ryan's voice filled the room, desperate and panicked. I've been trying to reach you all day. We need to talk about our options. My lawyer says if we can prove this was all a setup, if we can show that someone orchestrated the whole thing. Ryan, Clara said quietly, Ethan's here. You're on speaker. The silence that followed was deafening. Ethan, Ryan said finally, his voice trying to regain its old confidence and failing completely. I think there's been a misunderstanding. Clara and I never meant for things to go this far. We were trying to find a way to handle this situation that would hurt everyone the least. I laughed, and the sound was cold enough to make Clara flinch. You were trying to hurt everyone the least? By stealing money from your wife to pay for hotel rooms? By lying to everyone who trusted you? By planning to destroy 2 marriages so you could have what you wanted without consequences? You don't understand, Ryan said, desperation creeping into his voice. Clara and I have something real, something worth fighting for. We made mistakes, yes, but we can fix this if we work together. Fix this? I looked at Clara, who was staring at the phone like it was speaking a foreign language. Ryan, you've lost your job, your wife has filed for divorce and frozen your accounts, and you're facing potential criminal charges for embezzlement. Clara's been suspended from her firm and is about to be sued by half her former clients. What exactly do you think you can fix? We can start over, Ryan said. Clara and I can move somewhere new, build something together. We just need time to... To what? To find new people to lie to and steal from? Clara was crying now, silent tears streaming down her face as she listened to the man she'd destroyed her life for make plans that would never happen. Clara, Ryan said, tell him. Tell him what we have together. Tell him why this was worth it. Clara looked at me, then at the phone, then back at me. For a moment, I thought she might actually try to defend their relationship, might try to convince me that their love story justified the wreckage they'd created. Instead, she hung up the phone. It's over, isn't it? She said. Everything we built, everything we planned, it's all gone. It was gone the moment you decided that lying to me was easier than being honest, I said. It was gone the moment you chose to steal from your clients and help Ryan embezzle from his wife. It was gone the moment you decided that what you wanted mattered more than the people you were hurting to get it. Clara's phone started ringing again. Ryan's name on the screen, calling back to salvage what couldn't be salvaged. He's not going to stop calling, she said. Then turn off your phone. He needs me, Ethan. He's lost everything. If I abandon him now, you'll what? Feel guilty? I stood up, looking down at the woman who'd shared my bed while planning my betrayal. Clara, Ryan never intended to leave his wife for you. He was using Jessica's inheritance to fund your affair while telling his wife that you meant nothing to him. You were never his first choice. You were his convenient choice. The words hit her like physical blows. That's not true. He loves me. He loves what you represented. Freedom without consequences, excitement without responsibility. But now that there are real consequences, now that choosing you means losing everything else, how committed do you think he's going to be? As if summoned by my words, Clara's phone buzzed with a text message. She looked at it, and her face went white. What does it say? I asked. She handed me the phone with shaking hands. The message was from Ryan. Clara, I've been thinking. Maybe we moved too fast. Maybe we should take some time apart while we figure out our legal situations. I can't afford to complicate my divorce proceedings right now. I'm sorry. Clara collapsed back into her chair like a marionette with cut strings. The man she'd destroyed her marriage for, the great love that had justified 6 months of lies and betrayal, had just abandoned her via text message. He's protecting himself, she whispered. He's cutting me loose to save his own skin. That's what people like Ryan do, Clara. They take what they want and disappear when the bill comes due. You just never thought you'd be the one left holding the check. Clara's phone rang one more time, but this time it wasn't Ryan calling. It was her boss at the PR firm. She looked at the screen with dread, knowing that whatever news was waiting for her would only make things worse. Answer it, I said. You might as well hear it all at once. Clara accepted the call with trembling fingers. Clara, her boss's voice was professional and cold, I'm calling to inform you that your suspension has been made permanent. Effective immediately, your employment with Martin and Associates is terminated. Security will escort you to collect your personal belongings tomorrow morning. The call ended without pleasantries or explanations. Clara stared at the phone. It's all gone, she said quietly. My job, my reputation, my future with Ryan. Everything I worked for, everything I sacrificed our marriage for. It's all gone. I looked at the woman who had called me boring and predictable, who had planned to take half of everything I'd built while mocking me behind my back. She sat in our living room, soon to be just my living room, broken and defeated, finally understanding the true cost of her choices. Yes, I said simply. It is. Clara looked up at me with something that might have been hope. What happens now, Ethan? What happens to us? I walked to the kitchen and returned with a manila envelope that had been waiting on the counter for 3 days. Divorce papers, I said, handing them to her. I filed on Saturday morning. You have 30 days to respond. She opened the envelope with shaking hands, scanning the legal documents that would end our marriage. You're not asking for alimony, she said, surprised. I don't want anything from you, Clara. I just want you gone. Where am I supposed to go? I don't have a job. I don't have savings. Ryan's abandoned me. That's not my problem anymore. Clara sat in silence for a long moment. The divorce papers spread across her lap like the ruins of her old life. I'm sorry, she said finally. For all of it. For lying to you. For betraying you. For treating you like you didn't matter. I'm sorry. I looked at her, this woman who had shared my life and my bed while planning my destruction, and felt nothing. No anger, no satisfaction, no pity. Just emptiness where love used to be. I know you are, I said. But sorry doesn't fix anything. Sorry doesn't undo 6 months of lies. Sorry doesn't give me back the marriage I thought we had. Clara nodded, tears streaming down her face. I know. She gathered the divorce papers and stood up slowly, like an old woman instead of the vibrant 27-year-old I'd married. I'll pack my things tonight, she said. I'll be gone by morning. Good. She paused at the doorway, looking back at me one last time. For what it's worth, Ethan, you're not boring or predictable. You're not weak or clueless. You're a good man, and I was too stupid to appreciate what I had. You're right, I said. You were. Clara left the room, and I heard her footsteps on the stairs as she went to pack the remnants of her old life. Tomorrow she would be gone, and the house would be mine alone. The marriage would be over, the lies would be finished, and the people who had betrayed me would be facing the consequences of their choices. I poured myself a drink and sat in the silence of my living room, listening to Clara move around upstairs, gathering the pieces of a life she'd thrown away for a man who'd abandoned her the moment things got difficult. The nice guy was gone, but what had taken his place was free. 3 months later, I sat in Murphy's pub downtown, nursing a beer and reading the local business journal on my tablet. The headline made me smile. Former Blake Industries executive pleads guilty to embezzlement charges. The article detailed Ryan Blake's sentencing. 2 years probation, full restitution to his ex-wife, and a permanent ban from working in financial services. Jessica Blake had gotten everything in the divorce. The house, the cars, her grandmother's inheritance, and enough in damages to ensure she'd never have to worry about money again. The last I'd heard, she was dating a veterinarian who shared her love of animals and actually deserved her kindness. Clara's story had been less dramatic, but equally final. The lawsuits from her former clients had been settled out of court, leaving her financially ruined but avoiding criminal charges. She'd moved back in with her parents in Massachusetts and was working as a receptionist at a dental office. Her dreams of PR success and corporate power had vanished along with her reputation. Ethan Cole? I looked up to see Mia Turner approaching my table, elegant as always in a charcoal business suit that probably cost more than my monthly salary. She'd been instrumental in orchestrating the downfall of Clara and Ryan, and her event planning business had thrived in the aftermath. Apparently, being known as someone who couldn't be fooled or manipulated was good for business. Mia, I said, gesturing to the empty chair across from me. Join me for a drink? She sat down and ordered a wine that I was sure cost more than my beer. I saw the article about Ryan's sentencing. 2 years probation seems light for what he did. Jessica got what mattered most, her money back and her freedom. Sometimes justice isn't about punishment. Sometimes it's just about making sure the right people win in the end. Mia studied my face with the calculating look that had made her so effective at destroying Clara and Ryan's carefully constructed lies. You seem different, Ethan. More confident. More dangerous. I laughed, and the sound was genuinely amused rather than bitter. I'm not dangerous, Mia. I'm just not naive anymore. There's a difference. Clara called me last week, she said casually, watching for my reaction. She wanted to know if I thought you'd ever forgive her, if there was any chance you might take her back. What did you tell her? I told her that forgiveness isn't the same thing as forgetting, and that some bridges burn so completely that there's nothing left to rebuild on. I raised my beer in a mock toast. Wise words. She's working as a receptionist now, you know. Living with her parents, driving a 10-year-old Honda, shopping at discount stores. Everything she thought she was too good for when she was married to you. I heard. Do you ever feel sorry for her? I considered the question seriously. Did I feel sorry for Clara? For the woman who had shared my bed while planning my betrayal? For the person who had called me boring and clueless while stealing from her clients to impress her lover? I feel sorry for the woman I thought I married, I said finally. But that woman never really existed. Clara showed me who she really was when she thought there wouldn't be consequences. I'm grateful for the lesson, even if it was expensive to learn. Mia's smile was sharp with approval. And Ryan? Ryan got exactly what he deserved. He spent years taking what wasn't his and hurting people who trusted him. Now he knows what it feels like to lose everything. He's been calling Clara, apparently, trying to get back together now that his divorce is final and he's served his sentence. That was news to me, and not particularly welcome news. And Clara told him to go to hell. Apparently being abandoned via text message when things got difficult was a learning experience for her too. I felt a flicker of something that might have been respect for my ex-wife. It had taken her losing everything to understand what Ryan really was, but she'd gotten there eventually. Good for her, I said, and meant it. Mia finished her wine and stood up. I should get going. I have a client dinner in an hour. The Morrison account, actually. They hired me to plan their company anniversary party after their last PR firm betrayed their trust. Clara's former clients were still feeling the effects of her corporate espionage, even months later. The ripples from her choices would continue spreading for years. Enjoy the dinner, I said. Mia paused, her hand on the back of her chair. For what it's worth, Ethan, I think you handled this whole situation perfectly. You could have chosen violence, could have made it personal and ugly. Instead, you just gave Clara and Ryan enough rope to hang themselves with. I didn't want to become someone I couldn't live with, I said. Revenge is only satisfying if you can still look at yourself in the mirror afterwards. And can you look at yourself in the mirror? I thought about the question as Mia walked away. Could I look at myself in the mirror? Could I live with the choices I'd made, the consequences I'd helped orchestrate? The answer was yes. Clara and Ryan had made their own choices, told their own lies, committed their own crimes. I had simply ensured that those choices had consequences. I hadn't broken any laws, hadn't hurt any innocent people, hadn't become the kind of person who destroyed lives for pleasure. I had just stopped being the kind of person who let others destroy his life without fighting back. My phone buzzed with a text message. For a moment, I wondered if it might be Clara, reaching out from her diminished circumstances to try one more manipulation. But the message was from Derek, confirming our plans to watch the Patriots game this weekend. I finished my beer and left Murphy's pub, walking out into the cool Maine evening. The city lights reflected off the harbor, and somewhere in the distance, a ship's horn sounded its lonely call. It was the kind of night that would have once made me think about Clara, about the life we'd built together and the future we'd planned. Now it just made me think about possibility, about the freedom that came from no longer living with lies, about the peace that came from knowing that the people who had betrayed me were facing the natural consequences of their choices. As I walked to my car, I thought about the nice guy I used to be, the man who would have tried to save everyone, who would have looked for solutions that minimized the damage to all parties, who would have probably taken Clara back if she'd asked prettily enough and promised to change. That man was gone, and I didn't miss him. He had been weak where I was strong, naive where I was experienced, trusting where I was cautious. He had believed that being good meant accepting whatever treatment others chose to give him. I knew better now. Being good didn't mean being a victim. Being kind didn't mean being a fool. And being the nice guy didn't mean finishing last. It just meant being smart enough to choose your battles and strong enough to win them. Clara and Ryan had thought they were so clever, so sophisticated, so much better than the boring, predictable people they were lying to. They had thought that love, or what they mistook for love, justified any betrayal, any theft, any cruelty. They had been wrong about that, just as they had been wrong about me. I drove home through the quiet streets of Portland, past the Riverside Inn where their affair had flourished and faded, past the office building where Clara had once worked, past the restaurant where Ryan had probably taken Jessica on their first date years ago when he was still capable of genuine feeling. The city was full of ghosts and memories, but they no longer had the power to hurt me. Clara and Ryan's story was over. Their dance of deception finally ended. They had gotten exactly what they deserved, each other's abandonment and the wreckage of the lives they had thrown away for a fantasy. And I had gotten what I deserved too, freedom from lies, peace from betrayal, and the satisfaction that comes from watching justice served cold. The last dance was over, and so was their future.